All right. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, whatever you're joining us from. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Hopefully you are connected, you're able to see us and hear us okay. If there's any issues, then please drop us a message either in the Q&A or possibly in the chat function. My name's Edward. I'm pleased to welcome you here today. I'm the TechX Acceleration Manager, and I've also got my colleague. Do you want to
Hello
introduce yourself?
everyone, I'm Mariah. I work as the TechX Acceleration Lead at the Net Zero Technology Centre. Lovely to see you all, or all your names at least today.
Fantastic. So over the next sort of 30, 40 minutes, we're going to take you through the process of what is the TechX Clean Energy Accelerator. If you are hopefully a clean energy startup, either in progress of applying or considering it, this will be your chance for us to answer some of your questions, to find out more, and hopefully to start your TechX journey today. So there should be buttons at the bottom for chat or Q&A, and we'll get to them later on in the session. And feel free to post anything that you can as we go through. But we're going to move on to the next slide, please, and let's get introducing our process. So this is your team. We're going to be the team that will be delivering the program day to day throughout the process. So let's fire on and we'll go on to kind of some of the challenges you might be experiencing and hopefully how we can sort of solve that. So the position you might be in today, you're clean energy businesses, you're busy startups, you've got lots going on. And some of the big things that we know that you might be struggling is how do you develop your technology in a quick and rapid way? How do you get the resources and the support you need to advance that technology journey that you're on? How do you find experts, inputs, trusted sources, people who can guide you on all elements of your business from I don't know how to deal with my accounts to I don't know how to approach energy companies, make sales, develop the technology. These are key issues that we see come up time and time again for startups. The big one, the delightful one. How do I get access to funding, investment, money? How do I scale this technology? What do I do with it? How do I take what is hopefully an amazing, innovative technology, but build a brand around that, build a commercial strategy? These are kind of challenges that you might be coming across. How do you achieve those sales? How do you find those customers and understand, do they actually want what we're offering? And how do you access experts in industry? Banging on doors in the energy industry is not an easy challenge to try and get potential customers, potential partners, potential field trials. And time since we started the Net Zero Technology Centre, probably over the past 6, 7 years, we've worked with hundreds of startups and we've seen some of these challenges come up time and time again. You've probably been through other accelerator programs and opportunities, but if you're still facing any of these problems, this is what we want to focus on today. How can we as a team add value to what you're doing? We know you're busy people. We know you've got amazing things going on. We just want to add that support. And I think if you feel like any of these 6 areas or beyond might be issues you're facing, TechX, you're in the right place. Fingers crossed through this webinar, we can give some support and guidance through that. So let's move on to our next slide, if that's okay. So the TechX program is the entrepreneurship engine of the Net Zero Technology Centre. We're all about finding those amazing novel technologies that we need to decarbonize our energy industry. That's everything from amazing renewable power sources, hydrogen, carbon capture. We'll go through loads of those today, but we're really trying to build the energy industry of the future. And we're here to find those startups, give them support, give them the voice and the networks they need to achieve their extreme goals throughout this process. Next slide, please. So what does the program involve? You've probably been familiar with accelerators, funding competitions, various things like that. So we are out seeking for cohort 6 of our Clean Energy Accelerator. It is a program that it lasts for 15 weeks that will run in 2024. So it is an intense process. We've had startups describe it as a sort of mini MBA to take them through the process of developing their business and their concept. But thankfully, for those who are tuning in from around the world, it is hybrid. So while we are based in Scotland, and particularly in Aberdeen, Scotland, and we'll have 3 weeks of the program in Aberdeen, Scotland, the rest of the program can be tuned in from around the world. So if you're comfortable with that, that should be a nice mix of people from all over the world taking part in the program. And this year, the numbers are tight. We're looking for 14 amazing game-changing startups that we can take through that process over the next sort of 6 months for the application process, or 5 months for applications and assessments, and then the program itself starting in February. So hopefully an exciting process. Next slide, please. So if you faced any of those 6 challenges, if you were sat there thinking, we just don't know what to do with funding, we're struggling with our technology development, we need partners, we need resources, where on earth can we access this? Or maybe we need access to the UK energy industry. We're an international startup, we don't know how to access the UK energy industry. Here's how our program maps on and hopefully makes things a little bit different. One, we are very focused on technology. As a centre, we not just within the entrepreneurship team, but across the whole centre, we work on projects to do field trials, testing, reports, research, all about technology development. So this program will give you a lot more layers. We have lots of sessions designed around specifically clean energy technologies. How do you access the resources? How do you access the support? How do you kind of have the facilities that you need? So a lot of the program will be geared towards that. We have lots of sessions, so that mini MBA element. So everything from understanding your customers to understanding the technology to financing, intellectual property, calculating your carbon emissions. All of these expert sessions are delivered throughout the program to gear you up to be in the best position possible to develop that technology. We also know that for some of you, through 15 weeks, depending on the stage of the business that you're at, having the support to develop your technology is manageable. You have a plan, you can get that support, you can get those suppliers, and within the next year, you could find yourself having a prototype, having a small demonstrator. But for some of you, that small demonstrator in energy might not be so small and might cost a few £1,000,000. So if that's the challenge you're facing, or even just growing your business and you need money, part of the program is very geared towards being investor ready. How do we get you access to the funding, to the investors, to industry partners, to articulating what your story is? How is it going to be compelling? All of those elements are a critical part of what we try to do. Then mapping on, we help you shape that brand. We help you build that commercial strategy, not just having a technology, but how will you take it to market? Who will you reach out to? Who will you engage with? And then one of the big unique offerings of the TechX program is around customer discovery. Now, if you've been through other programs, you'll know it's very common to say, go and do some market research and talk to customers. But you're probably sat there in most of those programs going, yeah, but my customer is a gigantic energy giant, or is a supply chain company, or is the head of procurement for so-and-so company. They're not answering my calls, they're not answering our LinkedIn messages. One of the things that we do at the Net Zero Technology Centre is draw upon that expert industry network that we've got to try and arrange those meetings for you. So we arrange dozens of customer discovery calls so that you can get in front of industry people, particularly in the UK energy industry, but we do have global partners that support us with this as well. So you're not exclusively in the UK, to actually have those conversations. This is our technology. Here's what we think it can do. What issues are you facing with? How does your business operate? How does your business see these challenges? What are you currently investing in? All of that is vital insight to developing your tech. And hopefully that could be a real valuable part of the program for a lot of your companies, is those industry networks, people you can talk to. But beyond that, the final part is mentors, investors, ecosystem partners. We hope that we are well connected within the energy industry. So again, if there's support we can provide to exemplify, support, grow those startups in the industry, that is hopefully what we can do. So unlike lots of other accelerators, we have all of those connections, we have all of that support, we have all of that training, and it's also very geared towards clean energy startups through this process. So fingers crossed, if those 6 challenges are things that you're sat there fretting about, if you get onto the TechX program, we can help alleviate some of those. Next slide, please. And the big one, that money one, is always a big, lovely challenge that startups are facing. £100,000 worth of grant funding is available to every single startup that gets onto the program. So a huge opportunity to get a good chunk of money, especially if you're at that early stages, and hopefully unlock more further later on in the process. And I guess a key point as well is that while each startup gets access to £100,000 worth of grant funding that they could draw down, there is also prize funding at the end of the program as well. So our strategic partners put in some funding, and we have a prize pot of over £200,000 that gets awarded to startups at the end of the process as well. So you could be walking away with a total of £200,000 between your grant funding and one of the strategic partner prizes, for example. So a huge advantage, I guess, for this program is to have access to that type of funding and support as well. Next slide, please. And if you have questions about any of this, as always, feel free to pop that into our chat or Q&A, and we could give you some more detailed answers as we progress through. Now, a key part of the program as well is the partners that we can draw upon. So we have various layers of partners. This isn't just about us at the Net Zero Technology Centre and the expertise we can provide, but we really want to make sure if we can get the best voices that can help you advance the technology, we want to. So while we were once the Oil and Gas Technology Centre, we're now the Clean Energy Accelerator program. We're very much geared towards net zero. We recognise the industry is transitioning, and we want to work with the partners that are willing to take part in that transition to support us. So that includes BP, that includes Equinor, that includes Abu Dhabi National Oil Company. They're strategic partners. They're involved in supporting the program, providing people for you to talk to, providing opportunities for field trials and investment and relationships that you can build that can lead to those later on in the process as well, which is very valuable. And we also have our professional services partner, Accenture, which run investor readiness workshops and training throughout the program as well. So real leading industry expertise in these areas that are a core part of what the program can offer and give you gateways to future opportunities as well. Let's go for the next slide, please. And kind of what are we looking for in terms of the startups we are supporting? So some of the eligibility criteria, a lot more of it is detailed out on the website, but some of the areas we're looking for are you at TRL level 2 to 6? So we're looking for relatively early stage startups here. So this is TRL 2. You've got the idea conceptualized. You've kind of maybe got an initial concept on a napkin. You're sort of early stages of figuring that out, all the way up to technology readiness level 6. So a demonstration in a relevant environment. So you've kind of got a demonstrator. It's not fully industry ready yet, but you've done some testing. So if you're still at that stage, that works well. And that can be for, you may have already commercialized, or you may have already supported another technology. If this is a new one, brand new, novel, we can also support that one. But we can't support, if your technology is already making money commercially, then that's too late for us. So we're looking for definitely pre-profit and typically pre-revenue startups to take part in the program. And we're all open to teams or single founders globally across the world if you're willing to take part. And maybe pass over to Mariah now, who can talk to you a little bit about the categories and technology areas we'll be working with.
Sure. So we have 6 buckets that we are looking for startups in, and hopefully those of you on the call fit into one of them. So first, we are looking at CCUS and carbon removal solutions. Second, we're looking at low carbon hydrogen. Third, alt fuels and green chemicals. Fourth is renewable power. So that's looking at offshore and onshore renewable power. Fifth is digital solutions, and last but not least, we are looking at decarbonised industrial heating, cooling, and other. As Edward said, there's more info on our website on these, and we go into a full breakdown of what we mean by these buckets. But while we're on the call, it'd be great if everybody could post in the Q&A function, what bucket do you see your technology fitting into? Last week we visited Glasgow and we had a lovely spread of startups in each of the buckets. So super keen to find out which of you online fit into those. And I see we've got some questions in the Q&A just now, so maybe we can just cover those as well while people are kind of popping their answers into the chat. So the first question is, does a startup need to be based out of the UK? To apply, you do not need to be based out of the UK, and we take applications globally. So our last cohort 5, we had 1 international company and the other 11 were based in the UK. Our previous cohort, it was 50-50. So 6 were based in the UK and the rest were based internationally. If you are successful in getting a place in the program, we ask that you register a UK business, and it's one of our asks kind of during the application process. You highlight to us why you kind of want to work within the UK and deploy within the UK and maybe create jobs within the UK as well. So I'm seeing we've got somebody in digital solutions, we've got somebody that falls into that renewable power bucket, another renewable power. So it's a good spread we like to see, and when we're seeing our application process and our applications come through as well, it's a generally kind of even spread through the buckets as well. So excited to see what the themes are this year that kind of come out on top. Awesome, Sophie. Do you want to jump onto the next slide for me, please? Perfect. So if you're on the call and you're thinking, is this me? What does this mean to me and how can TechX benefit me? I will introduce you to Cameron. So if we jump onto the next slide. So this is Cameron. Back in 2015, while completing his PhD at the University of Edinburgh, Cameron had an idea. He wanted to combine scientific principles and real-world experience to develop new technologies to harness the power of waves. So together with his co-founder, Chris, he created Motion Energy. Next slide, please. They hit the drawing board and they created their first design of their wave energy converter. And you can see some kind of imagery of that initial concept on the screen. They had an idea of kind of what the tech would look like, how it would work, and they'd even done some wave tank testing. But they were still in search of where it could be applied and who their future customers were going to be. They had kind of the tech, but they wanted to firm up the business behind it. So come to 2019, we jump onto the next slide, please, Sophie. They had started to build their team, and you can see kind of an image of their kind of original team there on the screen. And they decided to apply to TechX cohort 2. So they have probably back in 2019 were sitting on a call just like some of you today, listening to the TechX team talk about the accelerator, and we're thinking, that sounds for me. So they wanted to solidify their business model, they wanted to perfect their pitch, and they wanted to speak to those potential customers to validate their technology. And of course, they were successful. So during the cohort, they did perfect their pitch. They continued to develop their tech, and they met with over 10 customers during that customer discovery period that kind of Edward was talking about, where they validated their assumptions about the applicability of their tech. And then fast forward to 2022, we jump onto the next slide. This is Motion. So you can see they significantly have scaled their tech. They've grown their team hugely, and they've kind of currently trialing their tech offshore in Orkney and working with some of those customers in a funded field trial that they spoke to way back in 2019 as part of the TechX Clean Energy Accelerator. So it's just an example of how TechX has impacted their journey there. So yeah, I'm sure you'd all be keen, and you can go and do a little bit more research on Motion and the work they're doing, because it's super, super exciting. We jump onto the next slide, please, Sophie. So if you're thinking, this is me, I want to apply, well, we're open today for applications, and we're closing on the 1st of October. So we're encouraging everyone to kind of today, after this call, start your application and kind of remain in the loop of kind of that process before the kind of closing date on the 1st of October. Then between the 30th of October and the 2nd of November, we'll be assessing all of our applications. And that's done through our assessment period, where we invite lots of external assessors in, and that's those mentors that Edward talked about. It's the investors that support during the programme, it's some of our partners, and they kind of help us review all of our assessments and whittle what could be 200 applications down to a final 16 that make it to our finalist pitch day, which this year will be happening on the 28th of November. And it's very Dragon's Den. You will be delivering a 5-minute pitch to a panel of 8 judges, followed by 10 minutes of Q&A. And then from the final 16, we will be pooling around 14 that will make it onto the accelerator itself. So the accelerator begins on the 26th of February next year, and 4 months later, you will all be presenting at Demo Day on the 6th of June in 2024. So it seems like a wee while away, but you'll be surprised at how quickly everything comes around with the application deadline. Then should you be invited onto pitch day, the accelerator day 1 could be coming around very quickly for our successful applicants. Do you want to jump onto the next slide, please, Sophie? So how do you apply? Well, it's very easy. You head over to our Net Zero Technology Centre website, and we'll provide a QR code at the end of this session that you can scan to take you there. You head over to F6S, which is just our application platform. And there's some lovely questions for you to fill out. That's just give us a bit of idea about the stage of your company's at and whether you're an actual fit for the accelerator in terms of, can you receive the funding? Are you at the right TRL level? That fun stuff. But most importantly, you need to film and submit your videos. Our application process is assessed solely on your video submission. So I'll go into that in a wee bit, a couple of slides long. But as I said, you need to ensure you've submitted your application by the 1st of October. And then it's just about waiting patiently to hear back from Edward and I whether you've been successful and made it through to the next round. So if you jump onto the next slide, the videos. I touched on this. So we expect you to submit 3 videos, one about your technology, which is 3 minutes long, one about your team, which is another 3 minutes long, and then a 2-minute video about why TechX. So when we talk about the technology, we want to know why your technology is innovative, what's different, how is it different to other tech on the market, where you are at the stages of development and what you see as the next steps, and most importantly, what's the impact of the technology? How is it contributing to a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions? Then, in your team, we want to know what your team looks like. Are you a one-man band at the moment with an idea that you want to scale and grow the team? Are you a team of 4 with somebody with an expertise in the technology, others with kind of a business background? We want to know what your team looks like and what your ambition is to grow the team as well. And then finally, why TechX? We want to know why you've selected TechX out of all the other accelerators in the world. Why do you think TechX is the one for you? What do you want to learn from on the programme? And most importantly, we're funded by the UK and Scottish government. So why do you see your technology impacting the UK? Are you wanting to create jobs here? Are you wanting to set up shop here? We want to know kind of why you want this kind of funding to go towards your company. And then there's a little plus as well. So we also want a 5-page deck that kind of summarizes those points there and goes into a wee bit of detail so that we can provide that to our assessors to read before they view your videos. As I said, all of that's on our website, and we've clearly broke down all of those questions and those points I've covered there. So it's really important that before you start filming your videos, head to the website, see that full breakdown, and start to build your video script around the questions to ensure that you're ticking all the boxes. Sophie, do you want to jump on to the next slide? Awesome. So top tips. As I said, do your research. You're here today, so you've already started. You know all about the accelerator. But have a read of our website, look at the past alumni that have been on the cohort and see kind of how they've progressed, how they've benefited from the programme as well. Know the timeline. As I said, that 1st of October date will come around very, very quickly. Some people sometimes don't realise how long it takes to film your videos, to script them, to include visuals and pull visuals into your videos, especially that technology one. So make sure that you're giving yourself plenty of time to perfect your application. Start your application early. So what we were recommending everybody on the call today to do is after this call, go and start your application. Not only does that give you a good insight into the form and what the application process looks like, but also means that you're now in the loop with all of our other applicants about key tips and other events that might be happening before the application window closes. As I said, read the questions carefully. Our assessors will be reviewing and assessing your application based on that video criteria that I highlighted. So make sure you're ticking all those boxes and that you're answering all the questions that we've broken down in the assessment criteria and video guidance. Stand out as well. As I said, in previous years, we've received up to 200 applications. So think, what can you do to make your video stand out on that assessment day? We've seen people who have done mock game shows. We've seen people in lab coats with party poppers. Think that assessors are seeing up to 10 applications in an assessment session. So anything you can do to make your video stand out and think this team deserves that spot on TechX. Kind of think creatively and outside the box with that one. And the final one is get in touch. So you've got a great opportunity today. You've got Edward and I in the room. So use the Q&A function and ask us any questions that you kind of want or come up. But also we're here to help throughout the process. We don't assess any applications, so we can help you with the script reviews. We can watch your videos and kind of see if you're ticking all those boxes. We can sit on a one-to-one call with you if you've got any further questions about the accelerator as they come up and as you go through the application process. So I'd highly encourage you, if you've got any questions after this call as well, reach out to Edward and I and we can help you with those. Amazing. So I'm seeing we've got a few more questions coming through in the Q&A.
Yeah. So I could fire them at you, Mariah, if that helps you there. So as we've mentioned, so this is our Q&A portion. We managed to get through our overview in just about 30 minutes. So this is your chance to fire us through any questions. So one for you, Mariah. First one, does the money need to be spent within the UK? That's from Imad.
It's great. It's a great question, and the simple answer is no. So our funding, how it works is during your process, kind of once you receive a place on the accelerator to before the accelerator started, you're asked to pull together a funding template. So that's just a general overview of how you intend to spend your TechX funding, and that's reviewed and approved by the TechX team prior to you getting a place on the you starting the accelerator, should I say. But does it need to be sent in the UK? Not specifically. We do have a great set of partners that we work with during the accelerator, who quite a lot of the startups opt to work with. Most of them are based in the UK, actually. But to put it simply, no, it doesn't.
Excellent. I can take the next one then. We've got a great number coming in, which is fantastic. So the next one's from Mohsin, which is, should have started or drafted a patent to prove they are currently TRL2. On application, no, you do not have to, and particularly at TRL level 2, it's quite an early stage. So we do not expect you to have patents or intellectual property. But what we do require is that you have a technology that's relatively novel. So if this is, you've just bought some bits off the internet and combined it together into something that anyone could easily do, that probably isn't novel enough. If it's or if it's a service business where you're just using other people's technology, that probably isn't novel enough. If you do have your technology that is novel, is something unique, something that's not been done, then you don't have to have the patents filed, but you probably do need to have a bit of a plan for what comes next. So you will probably need to discuss either in your technology video or in the questions, we're currently seeking our patent in the future, or we're currently looking to do a patent search, or we're looking to register copyright or design rights. You can mention it without having done it yet. So that's a useful one on that there. Great. Mariah, do you want to take one? Next one from Imad.
Sure. So how many in the team shall or must attend the accelerator? Should be the same individuals present throughout or the whole duration. So as one of the benefits of the accelerator, we ask for 2 key attendees when you apply, but you can switch team members in and out as suits you. So we've seen teams during the first week, they'll send their core team. During the middle week, where it's more kind of focused on pitching and storytelling, they're sending the people that are going to be pitching and storytelling. But you can switch people in and out depending on their expertise and the sessions that are relevant to them. So we often see that people, if they've got more technical people in the team, they'll put them along to the customer discovery validation piece, because those people are used to speaking to technical people and can really kind of get into the nuts and bolts of the technology. And then if you have somebody that's maybe into marketing, you would put them into the marketing and branding session. So you can switch people in and out as it suits you as a team.
Awesome. Excellent. I'll maybe take the next one from Achim, which is, do you have any recommendations for video production apps or any tools for those whose camera experience does not go beyond Zoom? Absolutely fair question, and we are not expecting Oscar-worthy videos here. So there is a scale you can go from. So one key tip, and you'll notice on the screen here, actually, this is a useful point to mention. If you haven't already downloaded, we have an application handbook. And in a couple of pages in, it gives you some examples of those videos. And you'll notice that there's a screenshot there of one of the videos that has sort of some visuals of the technology and some other examples in there too. So a couple of key tips for that video in particular is it doesn't need to be flashy. You can see this one's just filmed in front of a white wall, probably on an iPhone. But they have used some visuals of the technology, some images, some even just, if you've got a prototype that you're working on, show us some footage of it. The judges really respond well to being able to see something. It doesn't need to be a finished product, even just a design, a drawing, but it makes it much more easy to understand. In terms of editing those videos, couple of simple things you can have a look for. You've got Macs, you've got iMovie. If you've got Windows, you've probably got it's not called Movie Maker anymore, but it's called Video Editor, I think it's called on Windows, that you could probably easily add something simple like the base, the recording of you pitching that you've done on your phone, plus stick an image on top of it. If you're really not technical, even things like PowerPoint, where you have your slides or your graphics, and then when you go to present PowerPoint, you can record your video as you're talking to it. People have been using Canva. It's a free tool as well. So again, you can have slides or you can even edit things quite simply in Canva. So that's another option there. Or equally, as you've said, is Zoom. Do your 3-minute video live onto Zoom and record it, just kind of like we're doing today, and talk us through that. But keep in mind it wants to stand out. So we have had a few last year where the participants kind of just sat in front of a kind of camera and spoke for 3 minutes, which if there's nothing to break it up, if there's no visuals of the technology, if there's no show and tell, doesn't come across as easily. It's slightly less memorable for the judges. So you want to break it up, talk about the problem, show some visuals, show something. So something simple like that should work quite well. Mariah, do you want to take the one about Innovate UK?
Sure. So, does the Innovate UK Smart Grant funding qualify as a subsidy under the Subsidy Control Act? I'm not too sure on that one, actually. So, our TechX funding, I can tell you about though. So, our TechX funding is under the funding mechanism Minimum Financial Assistance, MFA, which the threshold is £315,000, I think. And that's within the last 3 years as well. But that's kind of as part of the Subsidy Control Act. But if you've got any questions about the funding mechanism, how it works with other public funding, you can reach out to the TechX team as well. We can connect you to our finance gurus within NZTC who are much better equipped to answer these kind of questions.
Amazing. And while we're on the topic of funding, a commonly asked question that we get is, so the Net Zero Technology Centre is a not-for-profit organisation. So we are here to support technology development. We're supported by the UK and Scottish government. And that's our purpose. We're not here to kind of make money. So thankfully, in most cases, you'll find we're not here to take equity in your business. This is a £100,000 grant funding. But what you will notice is that we have sort of repayment obligations attached to this. And that, it sounds harsh, but it's to be kind as best we can. So how does that work? What does that actually mean, repayment obligations? So for most businesses, if you're moderately successful or your business doesn't succeed in the next 10 years, there's no repayment required of that £100,000. That's, it's yours to develop as you can. And if it all doesn't work out, we're not chasing you for that money. It's a grant awarded to you. But for the companies that are doing pretty successfully, so the criteria are raising, I think it's upwards of 5 million in equity fundraising. You're making post-tax profit of millions, again, sort of 2 million plus. If you've sold the company for, again, profits of millions, if your company is doing particularly successful and is in a position that it could be repaying that money back, that's when the repayment kicks in to say, your company benefited very early on when you didn't have very much, and now you're doing very well. You're making profits. You're sold the company, so that's when your repayment of the £100,000 kicks in, when you're in a position to be able to do that. So all the details can be provided, but it's that £100,000 just goes to future generations of startups. So it's unfortunately, me and Mariah, our pockets aren't getting lined in this. But it's a good opportunity for you to give back in future. So it's not as clean as just a pure grant, but it is part of the entrepreneurial growth of the economy. There is a second option though, and that is completely up to the startup, is that if it is valuable for you to actually have the Net Zero Technology Centre have shares in your company rather than have that repayment obligation, then you can choose to sign an advanced subscription agreement or simple agreement for future equity type agreement that basically says we would rather you took shares rather than a repayment obligation. But at the point you sign up to the program, it's not like we have to have that lovely, delightful negotiation of we want 10%, we want 5%. What that type of agreement does is essentially say it's an IOU. You basically get to say to the TechX team, right, thank you, we want to take this £100,000. An IOU, please, for £100,000. And the next time you raise money from an investor who takes equity, that's when, if that investor values your company at X, so say it's £1 million, if it's £1 million the investor values you at, because TechX put in £100,000, that then triggers and we would get 10% of your company because £100,000 out of £1 million. in most cases, I imagine you're going to be upwards, maybe 10 million, things like that, in which case, what do we get? 1%, something like that. So that's rubbish, terrible. No, yeah, 1%. Not doing math on the spot. So keep that in mind. We can send you all the details, but it's nothing too threatening. We're not here to take shares of your company. We're just here to help future startups as best we can. So that's the main points with that one in there. Excellent. Mariah, do you want to take one of these other questions? I keep firing questions in. We've got a little bit more time until 12 o'clock. If you want to ask any more questions, we're here to support.
Sophie, do you want to jump onto the next slide? So we've got the application QR code up for everybody. Perfect, thank you. So here's a question. I assume anything we put in the video and into the application will then be considered public knowledge, i.e. there is no NDA protection and we cannot put anything IP sensitive into it. It's a question we get all the time and it's a very sensible question as well. So there's kind of twofold to this. First of all, we say with your videos, and we understand that any of the information you pop into there, you may not want to be in the public domain. So what we recommend you do is when you're uploading your videos and linking them to the application form, pop them up as unlisted videos or password protected, making sure that you let us know the password to ensure that all of that information remains private to you as well. And the assessors that will be reviewing your videos, they are all sign an NDA with the Net Zero Technology Centre in which our applicants are covered as well. So we always, it's a tough one. We always remind people that you not to release any information that might affect you getting IP protection in the future, but all of our assessors are covered under NDA. They understand that the information that you're putting forward might be kind of very sensitive, and we remind them that throughout the process as well. Remind you at the NZTC, we're dealing with startups with new technologies on the daily, so we understand how important that information is to the startups as well. So we consider that throughout the application process. But if you've got any concerns about that as well, you can always reach out to Edward and I. We always say within the technology video to include as much information as possible to ensure that the people in the room can understand your technology and then what it is you're doing and what makes it different. But sometimes you just want that peace of mind that that information is going to be kept safe. So if you've got any queries or you're nervous about it, Edward and I can speak to you and review the videos to make sure that everything you're including enough information and enough detail that our assessors can review the application, but so you also feel comfortable with the information that you're kind of putting forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll pick up this next one from Achim, which is about if two members are required to participate, that would exclude one person teams. It's not two persons required, it's two persons maximum. So not to worry if you're a single sole founder, it just means the pressure's on you. You've got to come to everything as best you can. But you don't require two founders to take part in any of the sessions. It's just making sure that you have a balance. If there's more of you in the team, and equally, say you have a team of 5 or 6, actually, the reason we cap that at 2, as I think Mariah kind of mentioned, is again just to make sure it's manageable for us, manageable for the program, manageable for spaces in the room, all that lovely stuff as well. But keep us right, we have been able to sort of figure that out. And equally, if you're a single founder, it's just making sure you can commit that amount of time. You know, it's yeah, we're working. And I guess another question that tends to come up is, what's it like being on an accelerator program? This isn't, you know, just an online course. It's not like a uni course. We very much try to design this so that you're working on your business as best as we can. So it's pretty much full-time-ish for 15 weeks. There's weeks where you're completely off. There's nothing on Fridays. But essentially from when you start, you come to Aberdeen, you're going to be meeting lots of different people. You'll be pitching, you'll have sessions. So that first week in Aberdeen, there's a middle week in Aberdeen, and the final week, basically full time, Monday to Thursday, 9 to 5. You won't be able to take very many other meetings. You'll be packed out, meeting lots of people, hopefully having a lot of fun. The virtual weeks, which are sort of weeks 2 to 6 and then later, they're a bit slightly more manageable. We tend to bulk the delivery sessions into the mornings, UK time. So you'll have some in-depth workshops about maybe it's about accounting, maybe it's about IP, maybe it's about developing your customers, maybe it's about building your brand, your story, maybe it's about calculating your carbon emissions, all those types of things. You'll have interactive workshops with partners. Then typically the afternoons are not, you're not in the call, but you might have a one-to-one. So in the morning, you might be having a workshop about what your next IP strategy is for the next 5 years. And then in the afternoon, you get a one-to-one consultation with an IP attorney in that afternoon. That's over the course of 4 or 5 hours. You just have to do a 1 hour or 30-minute call. Or you might be meeting with your mentor that you choose to book there. So in the virtual weeks, it is a little bit more manageable to have the day job as well. But just as you're coming into this, you have to be prepared that while the sessions are about the day-to-day of the business and it should hopefully fit nicely with where you are as a startup, it will be harder if you have commercial contracts, if you have projects that you're working on, that you have delivery. You will need to balance your team to make sure that you can manage that. And if you're a solo founder, keep that in mind. It's quite intense. It does go fast, so you can speak to some of our previous alumni, but keep that in mind as well. Mariah, do you want to take Anna's question?
Sure. So our technology fits into technology focus area 4. However, the descriptions on the website for onshore renewable power do not match our tech exactly. So how much flexibility is there for applications in this situation? So it's really dependent. If you don't see a bucket that you think your tech really, really, really fits into, it's probably worth a conversation again with Edward and I. And we can also pull in some of our technical experts from the centre to ensure that you're a solid fit for the programme as well, because we wouldn't want you spending lots of time on an application for us to deem it out of scope. Things to bear in mind, the technologies we're looking for typically tend to be business to business as well, and it could be that you've not thought of that applicability or somewhere you can apply your tech that would be in scope for us as well. So it just might be how you kind of frame the application and where you're planning on applying it as well. I think that's probably the best kind of answer to that question.
Awesome. Yeah, and I guess a general comment on that is we spoke about our extensive industry network. We're very energy focused. Our application has broadened a little bit. So we now are looking at, we've got transport in there, decarbonizing heat. We're slightly more industrial than energy in some places as well. So some of these are newer areas for us. So keep in mind and have those conversations with us if you need to, that while you might be a fit and it might all tie together, remember our expertise, what we add value to is energy systems in the Northeast. So for example, if you were, the type of technology that would not have any UK applicability, maybe it's something in, rural sub-Saharan solar type of technology that couldn't really have the type of application that we would have in the UK. It's not that it's not eligible, it's still solar, it's still on land, and it would be worth a conversation. But that might be one of those ones where it's, would we give you enough value? Can we help you enough? Because we might be going, oh, we don't really have many contacts in, desert-based energy production. We're very, offshore, oil and gas type legacy production side of things. So we might be able to help. We might be growing into that space, but just have that conversation to make sure that we're not wasting your time, because we're nothing if not trying to help you. So please keep that in mind. I can briefly pick up IO's one there while we're at it. So on that funding one, would grant cover travel and stay in Aberdeen? Absolutely. So you get £100,000 for your company, but out of that £100,000, there are some, caps and provisions that you can spend that money on. So one of those is a participation payment for the founders. Now that's not necessarily a salary. You can't necessarily pay yourself, but for the maximum of 2, so 7,500 each, up to a maximum of £15,000 of that £100,000 can go towards the founders' expenses, costs. That could be travel, that could be, if you're working basically on the accelerator full time and you have expenses that you need to cover, then that money, 7,500 per individual, can cover some of that. And there's also a 3,000 of, I always want to say subsidies, but it's not subsidies. Sundries, that's it. Apologies, sundries, which is your sort of odds and ends, taxis, little purchases, things like that. So you don't have to spend that 18,000 on those costs if you don't want to, but it's allocated for you as well. Do you want to pick up anything else about use of funds, Mariah? Because we haven't had a question, but it's normally something that comes up.
Sure. So I guess everybody asks what you spend the funding on. Typically with a lot of grants that you see, it has to be solely focused on the kind of R&D of the tech. Ours is it's broader than that. So as Edward touched upon, we're wanting to support both the development of your business, but also your technology. So yes, you can use it on that technology development piece. You can use it for rental testing facilities. You can use it for items that you need to build your prototype to support building your prototype. You can use it for kit that you need for testing or building, but you can also use it for some business kind of support as well. So IP costs, legal costs, building out a website, building out your brand. We understand that costs also look like people as well. So building your team, which is a huge benefit of the tech economy. So up to £40,000 of the TechX funding can be used towards new hires within your team as well. That does not include people that were already part of your team before you started the TechX Accelerator, and not towards founders. But you can use £40,000 worth of that towards new hires and new staff as well, but just during your TechX funding window, which is 16 months from the start of the accelerator. You can also use it towards contractor costs as well. But as I said, Edward and I, if you're successful in the program, we work with you to help building out your funding spreadsheet and to build out to make sure that your funding's going to help you achieve your TechX milestones.
Wonderful. So I can pick up most things. So this is your last chance for any questions. Fire them into the chat. And hopefully we'll see your applications come in. But one from most in there, which was, can an applicant submit 2 applications, each of which based on different ideas, one solo, one partner? Yes, you can. So that's fine. You can submit as many applications as you want to. Just keep in mind, so the way we do the assessments, if they are, typically it's based on the technology area. So we put together lots of hydrogen ones. We'll probably have an assessment day where we pull together expertise in hydrogen. So your assessment might fall into there. So they might be split across a few. If the technologies are in the same area, 2 hydrogen ones, it might show up on the same assessment day. So the same assessors might be looking at Mohsin's, hydrogen system and Mohsin and Edward's hydrogen system. Keep in mind the judges, we'll try our best to manage that, but they'll have a question to you. Okay, if you're planning, we want to see technologies that are going to succeed without TechX. So if you're going to progress with 2 of these technologies, how would you have managed your time? So if they see your name pop up twice, they're thinking, hang on, so-and-so is doing 2 things. If they get funding for one of them and not the other, does the other one just disappear? So the judges are really wanting to see businesses that are, growing. We're here to accelerate. So we're at that stage beyond incubating. So you should be, it's like a marathon. You're not all waiting at the front of the line, waiting to go. We're not picking whichever person to start with. You should all be running, and we are there to come along with a jetpack and just stick it on your back and get you to the race line faster. So that is a rubbish analogy probably, but that's in theory what we're trying to do. So if they think that, by supporting one of your businesses over the other one's just going to stop running, that doesn't look very good. So keep that in mind. You definitely can, and we want to see lots of applications coming in. But yeah, be aware of that. Do you want to take this next one, Mariah?
Sure. So can you apply as a company that established years ago but has developed a new product, or do you just accept new startup companies? So I guess we can go back to that kind of eligibility areas as well. So you need to be pre-profit and pre-revenue. The technology needs to fit in that TRL 2 to 6 bucket. And I think, Edward, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Does the company no longer than 5 years that it's been established? I can't remember. Maybe that's not.
I don't think we have that this year.
Not this year.
It's typical that they're no longer than 5 years. I don't know if we have it as a formal criteria, but yeah.
Yeah. So it was dependent again on the stage of the startup and what the work up to this point has looked like as well. If it's just been kind of a hobby up to this point, but you're ready to kind of take the dive and make it a full-time business and support, give you 100% of your time to it, that would be fine. But I guess it's a case-by-case basis.
That's a good point. And it does complicate things. In theory, we are technology center, so it's typically technology first. TechX is a little bit different. So we have had startups go through the program where they have other technologies, but they're applying. So they're a semi-established company, but still pretty new. If they're a gigantic mega corporation with millions in profits, there's no chance, I'm afraid, because basically the judges will turn around and say they can fund this themselves. You shouldn't be taking public funding if you've got lots of money. So if you're an established company with fair revenue streams coming in, then that's not really the scope for this. But if it's an established company and this is, you're not particularly making profit, but you think this is a whole new revenue stream, or it's a way to change your business model, or you're commercializing something that you've sort of worked on for a while but haven't turned into a technology yet, there's scope for it. It's slightly more unusual, and it would have to be, almost like that team of the company is in startup mode, or in some cases it might be even more logistically better for that technology to become a startup company, register a new company that's owned by your parent company, so that, for example, if that startup company doesn't do well, the parent company's money's not getting lost. Not a lovely complicated situation that might arise, but in theory, we typically help startups, but there is scope for established company, early stage established companies with tech that hasn't been commercialized yet.
Amazing. That was our last question.
Wonderful. Well, it's been lovely chatting virtually to all of you. And if there are lots of other questions, as Mariah said many times, we are around. We are visiting cities across the UK as well. So if any of you are based in the UK, we'll be coming to London, Oxford, Cambridge, possibly Bristol, St Andrews, possibly Edinburgh over the next month. And we'll be at Offshore Europe in Aberdeen next week on stands E360 or something like that. So please come and visit us and have a chat to us, and we are around on email as well. Anything final from you, Mariah?
No, just thank you all, and I'm looking forward to seeing a nice spike in our application numbers, hopefully over the next couple of days. Thanks, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you all as well.
See you all later. Have a great day.
Bye.